Happy days for the Nifty. Well, even as we advance towards the end of this trading year, we are looking at the benchmarks hitting new lifetime highs. That has certainly been the case today. Hello and welcome. This is the Market Wrap. The Nifty today closing at a new life high of around 12,165, 111 points higher. We have an increase of around 1%. We have gains in a lot of these metal stocks, essentially lending the weight for advances. So you have the names of Tata Steel, Vedanta, Hindalco, JSW Steel, even the names from the mineral space like Coal India advancing, and along with that a handful of names from the auto sector, which will include something like Tata Motors. We don't have too much going in as far as losers are concerned on the losing end force. Sun Pharma and GAIL India losing out around 1.5%, not too much to speak for there. The advanced decline ratio has once again turned towards the positive with 3 gainers for 2 losers on the NSE 500. We have the likes of Federal Mogul on account of the open offer, which is advanced by around 19%. Kolte Patil, some of your HNI favorites like Time Techno, NIT Technologies, something like an Avenue Supermarts, all of them advancing and with good momentum too. To take a look at the losers, Trident has been strong lately, which is why there's a possible case of profit taking down 13%. PC Jeweler, Indian Bank, Magma Fimcorp and Whirlpool of India among others looking at some amount of declines. But on that note, let me get in our markets editor Neeraj Shah for his thoughts here. Neeraj, certainly something to cheer about. I don't know how things have panned out with respect to volumes, but it's the price at the end of the day that matters.
Yeah, well, and it'll be very interesting to see what the FI data as well throws up in today's session. We haven't had too much of institutional activity, but Agam, I don't know if today would be different. Two, three reasons. One, the globe has been doing well. Today I thought, usually like a day which is trending higher. Right? We started off okay. Throughout the trading day, we trended higher and we ended at the highest point of the day, which is quite remarkable. It usually sets us up for good days going ahead. I'm not saying tomorrow will be a day of gains as well, but this usually is a good bullish sign. And very, very interesting. The voices that we spoke to today mentioned that with all the focus around the budget and the kind of spending, etc., may happen, and in the run-up to the budget, we might have a pre-budget rally as well. So we're right now having a festive rally, pre-festive season rally, but might have a pre-budget rally as well. So the equity market action, quite contrary to what the growth action is doing okay for now, and I don't think too many people should be complaining. Just one quick point. I thought today was an interesting day in that a lot of quality names which had seen a bit of profit booking, Bharti Airtel, Bajaj Finance, etc., all of them made a comeback. And that was the interesting part today. It was not necessarily only the big ones, but Bajaj Finance got beaten down to 1,300, made a comeback. Bharti Airtel got beaten down, make a comeback to 4. So that's the interesting texture to today's session, I thought.
Well, fair enough. We'll be watching out for them. Well, Neeraj, thanks for that perspective there. So, of course, while we do keep an eye on some of these names, let's talk about a handful of these names. And I'm going to start off with the metal pack. In fact, as I was mentioning, it is essentially the metal counter. Some of them are relatively heavier weighted companies which are actually doing well in today's day of trade. And I'm going to get in Nikki Mirchandani to tell us a little more about what's been buzzing underneath. Nikki.
Clearly, if you could look at the Nifty 50 index right now, also Tata Steel seems to be the top performer in the list. In fact, not just Tata Steel, you had JSW Steel, SAIL, all these steel companies doing exceptionally well today in trade today. There was a Citi report in the morning which apparently came up and said that they've upgraded the counter, both Tata Steel as well as JSW, to a buy rating, and also suggested that they have a neutral rating now on SAIL as a whole. Overall, they said that they're quite optimistic about the India's steel demand coming forward for FY21. That's expected to recover from the trough that the whole industry was witnessing some time back. November, December, we saw some amount of price hike coming in the steel sector. They expect the steel highs to continue going forward on account of the positioning right now. There's been a lot of volatility, which is now expected to ease given that the supply additions coming from China, they're expected to come down in FY20, which in case is expected to have some amount of a positive trigger for the industry as a whole, reacting to which you saw most of these metal counters, or rather steel stocks, doing exceptionally well in trade today. As you can see here, For a day, you had JSPL, Tata Steel, SAIL, all topping the list with gains of around 3 to 6.5%.
Fair enough, Nikki. Thanks so much for that perspective there on the metal sector. Very quickly, let's also address what's happened with respect to Hindustan Unilever, which was under a tad bit of pressure, but that's largely on account of its parent Unilever, which has indicated that growth may slow down further, and there are certain concerns with respect to South Asian markets. While there has been no mention of India specifically, but India, as we all know, is the biggest South Asian market for Hindustan Unilever, and that is where they have raised concerns with respect to slowdown. Besides that, of course, they are also talking about problems and challenges with respect to growth in Africa, and they are saying that the North American sales are yet to pick up. But I reckon what may be relevant to us is essentially Hindustan Unilever, and we do know that a large part of the slowdown in growth has already been taken into the price, but can we expect a little more to come through? That's the question that eventually will be answered over the next few trading days. But for now, Hindustan Unilever under pressure, largely on account of sentiments through, of course, what Unilever had to say with respect to their own growth prospects. And on that note, I'm going to go across to Sharad Dubey, who's going to get us two more stocks which have been buzzing in trade today. Sharad.
Hi Agam, the first stock is Federal Mogul. Go ahead, say the stock was up almost 19% and it hit its lifetime highs today itself. So this is based on the news that the Supreme Court has dismissed SEBI's appeal of upholding the open offer price of almost 608.46 rupees per share. So basically the order grants partial relief to the acquirer. So basically in this case it's Tenneco. So if you remember, there was an open offer price, of triggering almost a 25% stake to the public itself. So in terms of this, the deposit will be actually made in the escrow account as per the SEBI guidelines. So that comes as a positive news for the stock. Now, if we just pull out the technical aspect of the chart itself, the stock was yesterday itself trading above all the key moving averages of 50, 100 and 200, and it opened at a gap up, if you can see, and it ending the day at almost 662.2. Also, if you see the volume, that is something which it is almost highest level seen in almost 3 years itself, almost 2 years, if you can say, from April 2017 to December. So this has been a very high volume move for this stock. So that is something which we will be also watching out for. Apart from this, the next stock I would like to point out is from the realty space, in the small cap space, basically, that is Kolte Patil Developers. The stock was up almost 15%. It was the highest in almost 4 months. This is based on the news that the company is going to sell 500 units in its Life Republic project in Pune with a booking value of almost 205 crore rupees. So basically this is a really good opportunity, not only in the basically it's a good news coming in, as yesterday itself Ashiana Housing also reported that 244 units were sold in Jamshedpur. Now if we see the stock reaction for both the stocks itself, both of them were, actually in the middle, but the stock reactions which you see, the stock of Ashiana, hitting more than 14% yesterday, and the stock, rising almost 18% and closing at 254 for Kolte Patil, really shows some green shoots coming in the residential realty space. And last month itself also, as we know, DLF also did book almost 700 flats in its premium residential space. So that is something, some kind of green shoot is coming, Agam, in the residential realty space.
Okay, fair enough, Sharad. We'll be watching out for those cues. Thanks so much for getting us those updates. Of course, we're ending at least ending this particular session on a positive note, at a lifetime high. Can we sustain these gains, and can we see even, the benchmarks at even higher levels? That's something that we will know eventually over the course of the next few days. But on that note, it's a wrap on the markets. But there is lots more lined up. Stay tuned to BloombergQuint.